Imagine being famous, adored, and genuinely good at your job, and then waking up to find the entire internet furious with you. Welcome to K-drama fan outrage, where the biggest actors alive get dragged for reasons so gloriously petty, you'll wonder how anyone typed them with a straight face. It is so ridiculous that one of them got hated for wearing cute headbands. We're counting down 14 of the most absurd, and the higher we climb, the dumber they get. But first, an actress who posted a photo of her lunch and got a hate comment for it. Gong Hyo-jin has spent 25 years as the closest thing Korean television has to a guaranteed hit.
왜 자꾸 나한테만 왜 이러는 거야? 제가 진짜 계속 생각을 해봤는데요. 저 이제 알겠어요.
뭐를요?
그냥 내가 만만했던 거예요, 그동안.
Pasta, Master's Son, It's Okay That's Love? When the camellia blooms, the industry nicknamed her the ratings guarantor, which described what happened whenever her name went on a call sheet. So here's what a woman with that resume did wrong. She posted a photo of some food, a nice shot of a meal, captioned with a cheerful little yum, and a thank you to the friend who treated her. In the picture with her was her co-star Kang Ha-nul, a fellow actor and a friend. That was the entire crime. A photograph of lunch, and a corner of the internet still decided it warranted a snippy comment, as though sharing a meal with a colleague were some kind of confession. There was no relationship, no scandal, no story of any kind, just two people who had worked together eating in the same room, which is a thing that happens on every film set on Earth every single day. Gong Hyo-jin, to her eternal credit, didn't spiral and didn't apologize. She fired back a short, breezy reply that made the whole thing look exactly as silly as it was, and carried on with her life. That one at least involved a decision she made. The next actress got it for the way she was standing.
선물은 마음에 드세요? 선생님이 늘 강조하신 대로 전 부모는커녕 보호자 하나 없는 불우한 아이라 좋은 선물은 준비 못했어요. 그래서 제 나름대로 성심성의껏 준비해봤어요.
In December 2016, Kim Yoo-jung attended a preview screening for her film Because I Love You. She was 17, and at one point during the event, she was filmed sitting in the auditorium, not on stage, in the audience, leaning her weight onto one leg and glancing down at her own fingernails. That's the whole of it. A 17-year-old shifted her weight and looked at her hand. A post went up titled, "With total seriousness, Kim Yoo-jung's stage manners." It made the rounds. Netizens sniffed that she should have been more courteous to the fans who'd lined up, that she looked bored, that she was old enough to know better, and it was unpleasant to watch. Never mind that later in the same event she greeted the audience with a full 90-degree bow. Never mind that other actors on that stage were spotted doing exactly the same things, and nobody said a word about them. 2 days later, her agency issued a formal apology. Kim Yoo-jung was deeply reflecting on her attitude, the statement said, and was sorry to have disappointed the fans who had always trusted her. A management company had to publicly apologize because a teenager rested on one leg. And then, two people who were actually there said something. The first was a veteran co-star Bong Joon-hyun, who went on Instagram to defend her. He explained that on set she always leans on one leg because the other one isn't completely comfortable. Then he made the point that should have ended the whole thing. There is no reason she should have to disclose a physical discomfort to the public simply because she's a celebrity. She was standing that way because standing the other way hurt. The second thing is harder. After the event, she went to the emergency room with a worsening cold and had to cancel her schedule. And within the same week, she was hospitalized a second time, having collapsed under the stress of the pylon. So the full picture is this. A sick 17-year-old standing on her good leg in the audience rather than on stage, who bowed properly to the room and then ended up in hospital twice. Once because she was ill, and once because of what people said about how she stood. Now, Kang Dong-won has spent his entire career being called one of the most beautiful men in Korea.
난 그 사람이 미치지 않았고 거짓말한 것도 아니고 다만 누군가가 뒤에 있었다고 생각합니다.
Arthouse cool, almost unfairly handsome, melting audiences steadily since the early 2000s. He is, in the most literal sense, famous for his face. Then, at a press conference for his film Peninsula, some netizens looked at him and decided he seemed a bit puffy, a bit middle-aged, not quite the Kang Dong-won they'd signed up for. The reaction wasn't disappointment, it was closer to betrayal. as though he had made them a promise about his cheekbones and then broken it in public. Rather than getting defensive, he handled it with a grace that makes the criticism look even sillier. His face had been a little bloated that day, he admitted, and his condition wasn't great. And as he gently pointed out, he's older now, so he has his good days and his bad days. Which is to say, a grown adult man went to work, and the internet held a small inquest into his water retention. Kang Dong-won got criticized for how his face looked on one particular afternoon. This next actor got criticized for how his face looked on purpose.
그럼요. 연기한 지 꽤 됐는데. 강제 은퇴당해서 포주됐잖아요. 지망생들 속여서 상납하는 포주. 불쌍한 수경이처럼.
Yoo Sung-ho is another former child star turned leading man. Like Kim Yoo-jung, he has been famous since he was small and has never really put a foot wrong. He took a role as a police officer in the drama Memorist, and to look the part, he did something entirely ordinary for an actor. He gained a bit of weight, deliberately, for the job, and some netizens still lit into him. His face looked bigger, they said, and he clearly hadn't been managing himself properly. So, he had to go online and explain, publicly to strangers, that the weight was intentional, that he had bulked up for the character. And when that wasn't enough, his own production team stepped in and confirmed it, stating outright that they were the ones who had asked him to gain weight for the part. Sit with that sequence for a moment. An actor was told by his production to change his body for a role, so he did it, and was then criticized by the audience for having done it, had to defend himself publicly, and needed his employer to vouch for him before anyone would accept the explanation. He later slimmed back down for a photo shoot, and the very same internet swooned. Yoo Sung-ho was criticized for weight he actually gained. This next one was criticized for weight he didn't.
이 폐하가 가장 좋아하는 책이다. 이 책을 쓴 작가도 수학자였거든. 어때? 재밌어?
Lee Min-ho is arguably the most internationally recognized Korean actor alive. The face that launched 1,000 fan cafes, and the reason an enormous number of people outside Korea started watching K-dramas at all, he was starring in the fantasy epic The King, eternal monarch playing an emperor in a series that arrived carrying enormous expectation and a record-breaking premiere for its network. And emperors, as it turns out, wear crowns. In one particular scene, the crown sat low across his forehead and covered his hair. It framed his face differently than viewers were used to, and hid the hairline that usually gives his face its shape. On camera, for a few seconds, it made him look very slightly rounder. That was enough. A wave of netizens pointed and laughed that Lee Min-ho had got chubby. He hadn't gained anything at all. There was no transformation, no story, nothing to notice. A man wore a piece of headwear that the role required, and a portion of the audience mistook millinery for a physical decline. Apparently not even one of the most handsome men on the planet is safe from the ridiculousness standards of netizens. Lee Min-ho was undone by a crown he had no say in. Park Soo-joon was undone by something even smaller, that he was actually offered a choice about.
제가 주말에 홈플 다녀오자 할 때 갔었어야 되는데 이게 진짜 뭔 일이냐 진짜.
아무래도 아빠한테 갔다 와야 될 것 같아.
너무 위험하다니까.
Park Soo-joon is, by most measures, the most bankable leading man of his generation. And the setting was a 2023 stage greeting for Concrete Utopia, Korea's official submission to the Academy Awards that year, which tells you the size of the room. A fan had made a pair of cute couple headbands, the kind with little animal ears, and handed them to his co-star Park Bo-young. She turned and playfully offered one to Park Soo-joon. He smiled, pointed to his hair, and politely declined. That is the whole incident. Start to finish, maybe 4 seconds long, and the internet detonated. Netizens branded him rude, inconsiderate, cold, even cruel to his co-star, all over a hair accessory he chose not to put on. It escalated far enough that he was eventually forced to explain himself publicly, which is its own kind of humiliation. His hair had been styled so stiffly that it genuinely hurt his scalp to put anything in it, and he had assumed the headband was Park Bo-young's gift from her own fan, which made taking it feel like taking something that wasn't his. Then, everybody else involved lined up behind him. Park Bo-young said there had been no awkwardness between them whatsoever, and the fan who made the headbands came forward publicly to defend him, saying they had never expected him to wear it in the first place, and adding that he had warmly accepted their fan letter afterwards. When the supposed victim and the alleged wronged fan are both on record saying nothing happened, you're not looking at an incident. You're looking at something that was assembled out of nothing by people who weren't there. Park Soo-joon was dragged for refusing a headband. Choi Min-sik got dragged for wearing one.
분명히 참 특이하네. 그러면 주는 묘가 좀 소박하네요.
당시에는 더울이 심했다고. 그래서 조용히 소박하게 모셨다고 들었습니다.
Choi Min-sik is a genuine acting titan. He led Oldboy, which took the Grand Prix at Cannes and remains one of the most celebrated Korean films ever made. More recently, he led the box office monster Eczema, which drew over 10 million admissions at home. He is a man with nothing left to prove to anybody, usually known for a stern and serious presence. So when he cheerfully strapped on a silly headband at Eczema stage greetings, larking about with the audience for the sake of it, you would think the reaction would be universal delight. Instead, a corner of the internet took offense. It was beneath him, they grumbled, and a respected veteran of his standing shouldn't be goofing around in costumiers. It cheapened him, and it wasn't dignified. Choi Min-sik, being Choi Min-sik, could not have cared less. He defended the whole thing simply and directly as fan service, something done to make the audience happy, which is exactly what it was. His fans backed him up too, one of them putting it perfectly. There is something genuinely pathetic about criticizing an actor of that stature for wearing a headband and enjoying himself. Refuse a headband, you get hated. Wear a headband, you get hated. There is apparently no winning. That one at least you can laugh at. This next one is less funny because the double standard is so nakedly obvious.
셀프신 오늘도 출근했네. 야, 쟤는 꽃집에서 김밥 먹으면서 일하잖아. 손놀림이 달라.
Han So-hee is one of the most magnetic performers of her generation, and she faced a wave of criticism when old modeling photographs surfaced. In them, she had tattoos, and in one of them, she was holding a cigarette. Cue the pearl clutching. Netizens decided this made her improper, unbecoming, not the clean image they had decided she ought to project. Here's the absurd part, and even her friends said it out loud at the time. Male actors in Korea show tattoos and smoke constantly and nobody blinks. Several of them have built entire personas on looking slightly dangerous, and when they do it, it reads as charisma. The outrage only ever seems to switch on when a woman does exactly the same thing, at which point the identical photograph stops being style and starts being evidence. And look at what she was actually accused of. Not a crime, not a scandal, not hurting anybody or lying about anything, or behaving badly toward a single human being. She was accused of having had an image, years before she was famous, that a stranger later decided didn't suit her. The photographs were from her modeling days, taken long before any of this. The entire controversy amounted to a young woman having once looked cool. If anything, it said considerably more about the people typing than it ever did about her. Everything so far has been about something the actor actually did. Oh Man-suk didn't do anything at all, except his job.
리정혁이는 내 상대가 안 돼. 비공개 표창 받을 준비들이 나와라.
고맙습니다.
시켰어.
Oh Man-suk played Jo Chul-kang in Crash Landing on You, one of the most watched Korean dramas ever made. Jo Chul-kang is cold, scheming, and genuinely menacing, the kind of antagonist who makes a scene tense the moment he walks into it. He played him beautifully, which turned out to be the problem. Some viewers couldn't separate the two and started aiming the fictional loathing at the real man. He received comments saying that if they ever met this actor in person, they'd hit him in the face. Others said, only half joking, that they had become allergic to him. Consider what that means in practice. A working actor did his job so convincingly that strangers online announced they wanted to assault him for things his character did in a story that somebody else wrote. There is truly no reasoning with an audience that has stopped telling the difference. Oh Man-suk was threatened for playing a villain. This next actress was punished for something smaller and stranger. Her smile.
그래도 아무 일이 없으니까. 지금도 봐. 네가 경찰서 가서 그 지랄까지 들었는데 넌 또 여기 와 있고. 뭐가 달라졌니?
Shin Ye-eun played the teenage version of Park Yoon-jin, the merciless bully at the center of the global Smash the Glory. And if you've seen it, you know exactly how good she is in it. She doesn't play a girl who bullies people because she's troubled or damaged or lashing out. She plays someone who is genuinely enjoying herself, who finds inflicting pain funny, and who cannot understand why anyone would expect her to stop. The smile is the center of the whole performance. Bright, delighted, and attached to real cruelty. Off camera, she is nothing like that at all, but that's the trouble with doing it well. Nobody watching was thinking about the actress. She was so far inside the role that it followed her home. She said she gave herself nightmares filming and couldn't sleep without earplugs. Then the show came out, and the audience turned on her face. Shin revealed this later with a stunned little laugh, still not quite believing it. People told her they didn't want to see her smile anymore. Some said they didn't want to see her face at all, and fans actually unfollowed her over it. Not over anything she'd said or done, but because her expression now reminded them of a fictional teenager. She had done nothing except act extremely well. Though there's a brighter side worth saying out loud, losing followers over a performance that's convincing isn't the kind of problem that hurts a career. It's the kind that fills a schedule. An actress who can make a whole country genuinely dislike her on demand is exactly who casting directors want on the phone. You would think losing followers was the low point. It is not. Lee Yumi was adored, genuinely and universally, for her turn as Ji-young in Squid Game. It's a small role that breaks the entire show open. It made the whole world cry, and it won her an Emmy. Then she played Na-yeon in All of Us Are Dead, a wealthy, sneering high schooler who calls a classmate a wealthy because his family is on welfare, and who does something genuinely unforgivable to him with a handkerchief and some infected blood.
그만해. 나요. 하지 말라고 했어. 이리네. 난 너나가 해야지! 나도 죽어버리면 될 거 아니야. 니들이 바라는 게 그거 아니야?
And the exact same internet that had just fallen in love with her turned on a dime. The comments are worth hearing because they're spectacular. One viewer wrote that every zombie show has that one insufferable character you wish would die first, and that Na-yeon was it. Another posted that people always say they'd die for a character, and that they were that person, and Na-yeon was the insufferable one. A third was simply stunned, writing that they hadn't even realized Na-yeon and Ji-young were played by the same person, that she'd made them cry buckets in one show and boil with rage in the other. That last one is the tell. Because here's the part almost nobody knew at the time. She filmed them both simultaneously. 2 shows, 2 locations outside the city, 2 completely opposite characters, studying her lines in the car between them. So, what does she make of the hate? She loves it. She said plainly that if Na-yeon is really that mean, then it means she acted well, that the amount of hate she receives is the measure of how good the job was, that it's fine if you send hate and fine if you pity her. She reads the comments too, all of them, in one sitting when she gets curious. And she said she doesn't get hurt by them, that she actually feels happy because it means she did her job properly, which is the healthiest response anyone on this entire countdown has had. And it's worked out. She is now one of the most in-demand actresses in the country. Gong-yoo has been at the top of this industry for 25 years, and in all that time, across all those red carpets, he has never once been accused of dressing badly.
거봐, 너 있어. 참지 말고 얘기해. 너 다 티나. 해, 괜찮아. 네가 뭐라든 난 편견 없이 받아들일 사람인 거 알면서.
Then, in 2026, he posed for a photo shoot in a look that leaned trendy and youthful. Different from his usual polished style, certainly, and bold with it. And the internet lost it. Not because the outfit was offensive or strange or badly put together. The actual complaint, the thing people typed with their own hands, was that he's too old to dress like that. Gong-yoo, you're 48? Went the viral comment, as though reaching a certain birthday comes with a legally enforced dress code and a uniform. One of the biggest actors in the country scolded like a father who turned up to dinner in ripped jeans. The absolute nerve of a grown man wearing clothes he likes. Gong-yoo was told off for thinking too well of himself. Soo Kang-joon had the exact opposite problem.
너 완전 저돌적이구나.
Soo Kang-joon was having a very good year. He'd come back from military service, led MBC's Undercover High School, and walked out of the 2025 MBC Drama Awards holding the grand prize. Then he turned up in Netflix's Boyfriend on Demand alongside Jisoo in a small role, and stole enough of the series that the industry spent weeks asking for more of him. So, a man with a daesang on his shelf and a country asking for more screen time. And in an interview asked about his looks, he said with obvious self-deprecation that he could no longer take first place on appearance alone. It's the sort of thing a normal person says. It's practically a reflex. The internet was outraged. Not because he was arrogant, but because he wasn't arrogant enough. The comments are genuinely funny. "What is he talking about?" people wrote. "What in the hell is he saying?" One simply replied, "No, please do." Another begged him to live up to his potential and keep showcasing his visuals. And one post went viral asking him, politely, to please develop some self-objectivity, adding that they weren't asking for much. Just 10 selfies a day. A few were kinder about it. "This is exactly why I like him," one person wrote. "He doesn't even know he's handsome." And here's the detail that makes it better. This wasn't the first time. Only months earlier, he'd made a similar remark about one of his own features being too prominent, and the response then was the same disbelief. One person asked where, precisely, the problem was supposed to be. Another pointed out that people in Hollywood pay enormous sums for the jawline he was apologizing for. Only here could a genuinely handsome man get roasted. Twice, for the sin of not bragging. Soo Kang-joon underestimated himself twice. Go-soo has built an entire career out of it.
세상에 나가면 안 돼. 아직 죗값을 다 치르지 않았잖아.
Go-soo is so classically handsome that one of his long-running nicknames combines his own name with Michelangelo's David. That's the level of consensus we're dealing with. It is not a matter of opinion in Korea. It's closer to a settled fact. And then he went on Chef and My Fridge, a cooking variety show of all places, and dismissed the entire thing. When people call him handsome, he explained, they're mostly just being polite about it. It's courtesy, nothing more. And then he offered his evidence, which is the part that finished everybody off. He has to take 500 selfies to get one good photograph of himself. 500 from a man whose nickname is a Renaissance sculpture. His fellow cast members protested on the spot. He doubled down. And the chef Kim Pong eventually just said out loud what everyone was thinking, joking that the man plainly lacked any self-awareness whatsoever. The clip went straight across the Korean community sites, and the reaction ran from gentle ridicule to what was described as genuine, deep annoyance. A country that has spent 20 years agreeing on something was being told by the only relevant witness that they'd all just been polite. So here is where it ends. A man got dragged across the internet not for being vain, not for a scandal, not for anything he did wrong, but for being too modest about a face that people compare to a Renaissance masterpiece. If that isn't the most ridiculous reason of all, nothing is. 14 people, and not one of them actually did anything. They stood on one leg. They wore a hat that was handed to them. They had a slightly puffy face on a Tuesday. They played fictional people so convincingly that strangers forgot it was fiction. And in the last two cases, they weren't sufficiently impressed by their own faces. So tell me, which one made you laugh the hardest? And what's the dumbest reason you've ever seen a star get hated on? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want to see these stars at their absolute best instead of their most unfairly criticized, click the video on your screen for the K-drama actors whose real-life charm matches the hype.